The extreme, cold apocalypse arrived, a global catastrophe. A blizzard swallowed everything, while I hid in a warm basement. Watching to a nice chirp. In my previous life, when the apocalypse came, I was thrown into the freezing snow by my scumbag husband and froze to death. This time, I will prepare everything and make him pay the price. I suddenly opened my eyes and found myself lying in my familiar bed. There was no bone-chilling ice and snow around me. Have I been reborn? I walked to the living room and saw my cold-blooded husband, Hao Jian, standing by the sofa, smoking a cigarette. He was wearing a short-sleeved shirt, looking healthy and rosy, as if he hadn't experienced any disaster at all. My heart couldn't help but pound. I quickly took out my phone. The date showed it was exactly a weekend 1 month before the apocalypse. Just then, a news notification popped up on my phone. Exactly the same as what happened in my previous life. Those dreadful memories flooded back into my mind. In my previous life, Hao Jian was laid off by his company. He hit a wall everywhere he looked for a job. In the end, he just stayed home, doing nothing but eating and sleeping. And his temper became increasingly violent, but I didn't despise or blame him for that. Unfortunately, I was blinded by love, trapped by our so-called years of affection. I didn't leave this piece of trash immediately. Little did I expect that despite my true devotion, because of the shortage of food, during the extreme cold apocalypse, he threw me outside into the freezing snow, leaving me to die. No. A wave of immense joy, like being granted amnesty, surged in my heart. God finally heard my unwillingness to accept that fate, giving me a chance to start over. The phone showed the current temperature was 47 degrees Celsius. Even in midsummer, this temperature was abnormally high. Therefore, when facing the sudden temperature drop that happened half a month later, people were not vigilant at all. Instead, they showed a hint of joy. But after that day, the temperature never climbed back up. At first, it dropped by 5 degrees at a time. Then it became 10 degrees. Later, people woke up to find it snowing heavily in midsummer. And the temperature plummeted to minus 40 degrees Celsius. Only then did everyone start to panic. At that time, I discussed with Hao Jian, saying that while we could still go out, we should go to the supermarket together to buy some supplies. Who knew Hao Jian would fly into a rage upon hearing this, questioning me if going out in such freezing weather meant I was trying to kill him. It was exactly at that moment that I finally woke up to reality. In fact, he had changed a long time ago. I just never wanted to believe it. Perhaps it was a mistake from the very beginning. Later, he tore off his hypocritical mask, monopolized all the thick clothes and heavy blankets, forced me to find supplies and food for him. Fierce winds carried heavy snow across the sky, and the exposed skin on my face literally cracked open from the freezing cold. But if I couldn't find any supplies. I would be scolded and beaten when I returned. In the end, when I truly couldn't find anything, he actually negotiated privately with the building bully behind my back, planning to sell me to exchange for food. I fought back fiercely that day. So, he locked me out on the balcony for a whole day and night. That was how I was frozen to death alive. Those humiliations feel as if they just happened. The feeling of my limbs freezing stiff is still vivid in my mind. Recalling all this, I couldn't hold back my tears. When my parents passed away in a car accident, they left me a considerable inheritance. Over the years, I also saved some money myself. I checked my accounts and had about 1 million left. Plus the house and car under my name. I should be able to gather a good amount of money. I went to a nearby real estate agency. I wanted to rent a standalone villa ready for immediate move-in, preferably with a low occupancy rate and high-quality security. We smoothly negotiated the price, and I directly signed a 5-year lease. The real estate agent was smiling from ear to ear. Later, when I went to the villa, I looked around. The furniture was all very new, and the quality of the windows was excellent. What surprised me the most was that there was actually a huge fireplace here. I stood by the window and looked outside, thinking to myself, this is going to be my doomsday safe house. I walked to the stairs on the first floor and discovered an inconspicuous, small door. My heart skipped a beat. Could this be some kind of secret room? Walking in, I realized there was actually a basement underneath the house. It seems the original owner had some sense of crisis, building a basement during the renovation. But the real estate agent seemed completely unaware of this. The basement was about 20 square meters, fully furnished, with an advanced ventilation system. Standing inside, I didn't feel stuffy at all. Later on, I just need to figure out a way to reinforce the thermal insulation layer. With the housing problem solved, the next step was to start hoarding various supplies. Having the experience from my previous life, I already had a rough checklist in my mind. The principle of doomsday hoarding is: first, the shelf life must be long enough. Second, the usage conditions must be simple. Therefore, instant food like instant noodles are the top choice. Various flavors of instant noodles, self-heating hot pots, sausage-con, compressed biscuits, nuts, beef jerky, and canned congee. I ordered 80 boxes of each. Toilet paper, sanitary pads, and toiletries also need to be well stocked, considering the issue of going to the toilet in the apocalypse. I also bought hundreds of bags of cat litter, solid alcohol, high power, portable chargers, night light, and I also bought plenty of self-defense weapons. After all, during the apocalypse, human nature is the most terrifying thing. When the extreme cold doomsday arrives, electricity and heating will surely stop. So I ordered a large amount of firewood and coal for emergencies. Finally, the source of life, drinking water. In my previous life, because I died relatively early, premier dit not que non. how long that extreme weather would last. I had the water station deliver 500 barrels of purified water and 300 boxes of bottled water. A little interlude happened when I was buying medicines. Because I bought such a huge amount, the clerk even suspected I was illegally reselling drugs and wanted to call the police on the spot. I had to make up a lie, saying I was from a charity organization, and these medicines were bought for those who couldn't afford medical treatment. Only then did the clerk half-believingly sell the medicine to me. Looking at these medicines, I fell into a momentary daze. Before getting married, I did indeed volunteer for a charity rescue team for a while. Hao Jian and I actually met during one of those events. The old Hao Jian wasn't such a selfish and bottomless person. I can only say, you may know a person's face, but not their heart. The irritability after losing his job, coupled with the fear of the apocalypse, released his truest nature, like a wild beast, being unleashed. Actually, in this life, I totally could have survived the apocalypse together with him. Unfortunately, the Wanwan who still had a sliver of pity for him is already dead, killed by his own hands. Now, I am reborn and ready for revenge. Afterward, I went to my favorite restaurant and had a wonderful meal. I was in a great mood, even if this night is so ordinary. Even though the apocalypse is approaching, just being alive is enough. Returning to the villa, I moved the supplies trip by trip into the basement. Looking at the floor, piled high with supplies, I felt an immense sense of security. For a long-lasting battle, I think I will need even more supplies. One person's physical strength is truly limited, but there's not much time left now. Desafiados still needs some other modifications. After paying the rent and purchasing the supplies, I only had about 800,000 left on hand. To prevent a shortage of funds for subsequent renovations, I decided to sell off the assets under my name. The villa's storage room is quite secure. I can stockpile some fireworks and firecrackers there. In extreme moments, using them as gunpowder isn't a bad idea, because I always keep in mind what is more terrifying than the Doomsday environment has always been the unpredictable human heart. The last thing is the renovation of the house. Steel plates need to be added inside the house, and doors and windows must be upgraded to blast-proof grade. The basement also needs reinforcement. That 800,000 is definitely not enough. When I woke up again, my body was burning hot. It turned out it was because I set the AC temperature way too high. At that moment, I drenched in sweat. I checked my phone, and the time showed it was already past 5 a.m. After I went home, Hao Jian was lying on the sofa, playing on his phone. Seeing me come back, he didn't care at all about where I had been. He just ordered me to hurry up and cook for him. Buying supplies and moving them yesterday left me physically and mentally exhausted. Right now, I couldn't be bothered with him. I turned around went back to my room and locked the door. There are 29 days left until the apocalypse. I won't indulge him anymore. When première occupée l'inune. The day of the temperature drop was one day closer. The string of tension in my head was pulled tighter and tighter. I first reviewed the list of what I bought yesterday and checked for missing items in terms of clothing, food, housing, and transportation. First is the living situation. House renovations will take some time. So I hurriedly contacted a renovation company and even paid extra to speed up the renovation process. After that, I ordered a lot of down jackets online, military greatcoats, and insulated boots. I also bought dozens of boxes of heat packs. As for large solar panels, I plan to install 6 on the roof. Worst comes to worst, I'd rather die of heat than freeze to death. By the time I finished, it was already 5 p.m. I sat on the sofa, thinking, I shouldn't be missing anything now, right? However, there is one more important thing I need to do right now. Back home, I quickly installed the pinhole cameras I bought in several hidden corners, ensuring that when the extreme cold doomsday comes, I can perfectly watch the miserable state of this piece of trash. Packing up my personal belongings, I returned to the villa. It was already a bit late. I checked the renovation progress, and it was going well. At this speed, it should be finished in less than 10 days. The power of money is truly limitless. In the following days, apart from how Jian constantly calling and texting to insult me, it was quite peaceful. Be next week, the cold wave will strike. Although the house has been fully fortified, the rule I set for myself is not to go out unless absolutely necessary, especially later, when society continuously collapses and people start killing each other for a bite of food. I must try my best to hide my existence. Over the past 2 days, the temperature started to drop. Extreme cold warnings have begun. The day after tomorrow, it will start snowing. At first, it will just be light snow, but later, it will turn into a heavy blizzard. And it will never stop again. At 2:30 a.m., small snowflakes started falling from the sky. The internet became lively, with everyone discussing the snow. Some were cheering, while others were worried. I lay in bed, played on my phone for a while, and went to sleep. When I woke up the next morning, the snow was much heavier than during the night. There was already a layer of accumulated snow on the ground. I glanced at my phone. The weather forecast showed that the current temperature was minus 30 degrees. After eating, I turned on the surveillance cameras. It was already close to noon. In the frame, Hao Jian was wrapped in a thin blanket, blasting the AC. Yesterday, before I left, I threw all his winter clothes into the trash can. I also took all the food away. À ti moment, mi fonneront. It was Hao Jian. This time, surprisingly, I didn't ignore it. As soon as I connected, his angry cursing came through. Wanwan, where the hell are you? I'm freezing and starving right now. Hurry back and buy me something to eat. I unhurriedly replied. Hey, it's none of your business where I am. Oh right, I forgot to tell you. I'm going to divorce you. I hope you can enjoy the rest of your days. Before he could say anything, I hung up the phone and quickly blocked his number. Watching his helpless fury through the camera was truly amusing. But it looked like he had no intention of going out to buy supplies. I lay on the sofa, scrolling through my phone. Posts on the internet about the apocalypse arriving were increasing. It seemed many people were starting to stay alert. Currently, water, electricity, and gas are still functioning. And social order hasn't collapsed yet. So, although some people feel panicked, most are still enjoying the arrival of the first snow. But it seems everyone has forgotten that it is currently August. However, this joy didn't last long. By the next day, the small snowflakes had evolved into a heavy blizzard. In just one day, the accumulated snow on the ground reached 20 to 30 centimeters thick, and the temperature dropped to minus 40 degrees. Voices of despair on the internet grew louder. Someone posted the situation inside a supermarket, even though it was freezing outside. The supermarket was still packed with people, continuously clearing out the shelves. When I opened the surveillance camera, Hao Jian was still huddled on the sofa. Turning the AC to the maximum was of no use. I couldn't help but find it hilarious. Compared to me being locked outside to freeze to death in my previous life, he is quite fortunate right now. Today is the 10th day since the heavy snow began. The snow shows no sign of lessening. Instead, it's getting heavier. Because of the sudden temperature drop, the sky is getting dark much earlier too. It starts to get dark just past 4 p.m. These days, Hao Jian finally couldn't hold out anymore and went out to buy some supplies. Speaking of which, he was quite lucky. He brought back a down comforter and several bags of noodles. However, his face had several bloody scratch marks. Just like that, peacefully. The snow outside grew even heavier, and the accumulated snow became thicker. People online started to panic, all discussing whether this was the arrival of the apocalypse. Another half-month passed. The outdoor temperature had reached minus 60 degrees. I stood in front of the window, the blizzard making it impossible to see anything outside. Even wearing a thick down jacket, I could still feel the chill. I boiled some water, preparing to make instant noodles, paired with a cup of hot milk tea. In such a harsh winter, this can be considered a great enjoyment. Since the power hasn't been cut off yet, I can still rely on the AC for heating. Once the power goes out, this large fireplace will really come in handy. Looking at the basement, full of supplies, I suddenly felt what true security means. Because this way, I don't have to fear starving to death. But I am also more worried about my situation when order collapses later on. If someone tries to invade my house, then will this safe house be able to protect my life? Just like tea, I'm on pass. The snow grew heavier and heavier, showing absolutely no signs of stopping. The outdoor temperature has already plummeted to -70 degrees. The entire city is buried beneath a thick layer of snow. These past few days, I've lived quite comfortably. Every day consists of eating, drinking, and playing on my phone. But because the temperature continues to drop, it's already very cold inside the villa. So I moved down to live in the basement early on. On this day, I opened the surveillance cameras, wanting to see what that piece of trash was up to. However, in the frame, his front door was open, and several fierce-looking men were standing in the room. Hao Jian was covered in blood, lying on the floor, panting heavily. Observing carefully, I recognized the man in the lead. It was the building bully. In my previous life, he was the one Hao Jian wanted to sell me to for food. I didn't expect his karma. Tocom Sud-West Sun. The building bully and his gang gathered all the remaining food in Hao Jian's house and looted everything. Hao Jian could only watch as the supplies he painstakingly found were taken away by others, powerless to stop them. Seeing this scene, I felt a secret delight. It seems the trap I set that day really got him hooked. One day, before the apocalypse arrived, by the elevator, I deliberately contacted the supermarket staff in front of the building bully to deliver food to Hao Jian's house. I took so much trouble, just so that during a time like this, he would come to rob Hao Jian's supplies. Afterward, those men didn't leave in a hurry. Instead, they moved in. Hao Jian's jacket was also stripped away. Right now, he's wearing just a short-sleeved shirt, huddled in a corner. For the next few days, they continuously interrogated and beat Hao Jian, pretty boy. Where did you hide the rest of the food? Don't play dumb with me. I heard your wife on the phone with my own ears, having supplies delivered to your place. Hao Jian, looking bewildered and wronged, said, I don't know about any supplies. I'm already divorcing her. Really? She moved out a while ago. Seeing this, I stopped the screen recording. I zoomed in on Hao Jian's cowardly, shrinking figure in the camera and watched it over and over. À petit moment je sighed. The building bully and his gang stayed at Hao Jian's place for several days. During that time, they kept bringing supplies in from outside. It looks like they probably looted other residents' homes. Later, they stayed for a few more days, and seeing there was truly nothing left, they packed up their spoils and left. After they left, Hao Jian quickly scrambled up and locked the door. He sat on the sofa, his face completely dark. He finally realized that this was my doing. He kept calling me, but I had blacklisted his number long ago. Since that day, because of the unceasing blizzard, the snow outside kept getting thicker, gradually accumulating to over a meter deep. The temperature also slowly dropped to -80 degrees. The content online started to become grim. Every day, you would see news about people freezing to death on the roadside. I felt very panicked. I don't know if it was because I was too terrified. But even inside the basement, I began to feel a hint of chill. A few more days passed. For some unknown reason, I felt the basement becoming increasingly stuffy. Even the air seemed to become thin. Feeling dizzy, I couldn't help but turn off the AC, gasping for air. Something must have gone wrong for it to be like this. For the first time in over a month, I opened the main door of the basement. The freezing air rushed toward me, like a tidal wave. Even wearing a thickened down jacket, I was still freezing. It was sud-ouest cold. However, it also cleared up my dizzy head a bit. Actually, I personally prefer winter more. I feel the winter air is very crisp, unlike the hot and sticky summer. After fresh air rushed into my lungs, I felt much better. I started checking the house for problems. Everything was fine, except for the ventilation pipe. Perhaps because there has never been such a heavy blizzard before. The ventilation pipe finally couldn't bear the load and got blocked. But the worst part is, to clean the ventilation pipe, I have to go outside. But I know very well that going out during this time is extremely dangerous. Whether it's other people or the deep snow outside, they could easily cost me my life. But if I don't go out to clean it, I won't be able to continue living in the basement. That night, fully armed with winter gear, I also grabbed a machete for self-defense. Because the accumulated snow outside had piled up to over a meter high. The door was very hard to open. I had to take a shovel and climb down from the small balcony on the second floor. The temperature outside was incredibly cold. Fierce winds were howling with heavy snow. But fortunately, I smoothly found and cleared out the snow inside the ventilation vent. Afterward, I also used wooden boards to build a circle around the vent, preventing it from getting blocked again. Just as I returned inside the house, the lights went out. I stood by the window looking out. The entire world suddenly plunged into darkness. It seems the power was finally cut off. When there were lights, it was manageable. But the atmosphere after the power outage made me feel as if I were the only person left in the entire world. That sense of loneliness instantly engulfed my whole body, leaving me at a loss for a moment. I went back to the basement, locked the door, turned on the rechargeable desk lamp, and sat on the sofa, drinking hot water from the thermos. After resting for a while, my somewhat stiffened limbs returned to normal. I took out my phone wanting to check the time, only to find an unread message on WeChat. It was a friend request from 10 minutes ago. Watch out. Your husband is coming to look for you. This was what the person wrote in the friend verification request. The system showed they added me through the property management group. My heart pounded wildly. I quickly searched for this person's ID in the property group. It was actually her. The person who, in my previous life, gave me heat packs and food. But how did she know about this? I clicked to accept the friend request. But the system's loading circle kept spinning. This sense of the unknown made me uneasy. It seemed like something terrifying was about to happen. It had already been more than 10 minutes since that person sent the friend request. I didn't know if Hao Jian had made his move yet. Would he tell the building bully and his gang? If they all came, would I be able to defend against them? During this time, many thoughts crossed my mind. I was very curious. How did Hao Jian know my hiding location? And the person who sent me this danger warning, could her words be trusted? However, better safe than sorry. I couldn't let my guard down. After making up my mind, I walked out of the basement again. I first checked my security measures, then hid by the window with binoculars to observe the situation outside. Another half-hour passed, and sure enough, I saw a few dark figures appearing near the villa. Observing closely, I saw the person leading them was Hao Jian. He was wearing a black down jacket, holding a large axe in his hand. What should I do? Où est qu'en premier dos? Can this house withstand their attack? However, fog was slowly condensing on the glass. With the naked eye, I couldn't see the situation outside clearly anymore. I had structurally reinforced the inside of the house. If the power hadn't gone out, I could have activated the high-voltage electric grid to intercept them. But unfortunately, there was a power outage, so I had to find another way. Finally, watching these people arrive at the villa's gate, I counted the number of people. Besida Jian. There were 2 others, all holding weapons. But the building bully wasn't among them. Premier did not know how Hao Jian managed to persuade them to come out. I thought carefully for a moment, then left the window and quickly rushed down to the basement, bringing up 2 large buckets of water, fearing the melted snow water might be unclean. I had collected this water for my own use. Now, it's going to be used on these scumbags. What thou wast? I returned to the 2nd floor balcony, waiting for them to reach the main door. I directly poured a bucket of water right on them. They couldn't dodge in time, and were soaked to the bone. The few of them screamed wildly down below. The weather was so cold. Just leaving this water outside for a short while caused ice shards to form. How refreshing it must feel to have it poured on the body. Goes without saying. At first, they were still constantly cursing. But after only 5 or 6 minutes, their bodies had already become somewhat stiff. I continued to hide on the balcony, watching their miserable state, until these people finally froze stiff, lying motionless in the snow. It only took about half an hour from start to finish, watching the heavy snow falling from the sky, bit by bit, swallowing their sinful bodies. My vengeance from my past life was finally avenged. Only then did I return to the basement and securely lock the door. Since that day, I had always been worried, because the building bully didn't come that night. I was afraid he would come seeking revenge in the following days. However, 2 months passed just like that. And the building bully still hadn't shown up. The snow outside was still falling fiercely. And the temperature had reached -100 degrees. The accumulated snow had long surpassed the first floor entrance, completely sealing the main door. Just in case, I hadn't started using the fireplace for heating yet. I was afraid the smoke produced by burning firewood would leak out from the ventilation pipe and be discovered by others. So I could only wear thick down jackets and sit wrapped in blankets to stay warm. This heavy snow was so intense, as if it were endless. I didn't know when this disaster would finally end. I could only keep praying that I could safely survive this doomsday catastrophe. Just like tea modest. The outdoor temperature could no longer be measured. As for the blizzard, it never once stopped. The basement had turned into an ice cellar. After much consideration, I finally decided to start using the fireplace for heating. Watching the flames rise, a sense of happiness spread through my heart. The warm firelight illuminated the dark basement. Sitting by the fireplace, I could briefly feel a sense of security. I could also boil water and make hot pot on the fireplace. Every day was just cooking and sleeping. Although life was very boring, at least I was still alive. This is the 3rd year of the raging blizzard. The buildings in the city are completely covered by snow. Wherever the snowflakes drift, there is absolutely no sign of life. But I encountered another terrible situation here. My ventilation vent got blocked again. I had no choice but to repeat the old trick. Because around the villa, there had long been no trace of humans. I directly chose to go out during the daytime. Coming to the window on the 2nd floor, I felt something was different. Looking closely, the snow had actually stopped. Looking at the bright sun, I instantly felt a massive weight lifted off my shoulders. The apocalypse is over. Première survived. After the sun came out, the temperature also rose quickly. Half a month later, it had reached 16 degrees. At this time, the accumulated snow on the ground was also slowly melting away. The restoration of network signals happened 1 week after the snow completely melted. Surviving people from all regions were expressing the joy of surviving a disaster. I was finally able to step out of my house. Looking at the few bodies at my doorstep, I dialed 110. After some brief questioning, the police took them away. A piece of paper dropped from one of the bodies. I opened it and saw it listed various crimes committed by the building bully and his gang. There was home invasion, extortion, and sexually assaulting women. There was even cannibalism. Reading this, a wave of disgust and horror washed over me. Society began to return to normal. I went back to the home I used to live in. Shortly after, the police came to count the surviving population. In such a huge residential community, only a dozen or so people were left. Among the survivors, I saw the girl who sent me the danger warning. I went to greet her and thanked her many times. She also greeted me and said, "T'en supplie." Thank you so much. Iringti. I just smiled and didn't reply. Because, in my previous life, she gave me a little help, letting me feel a trace of warmth during the apocalypse. Reborn into this life, I hadn't forgotten about her either. Actually, that day in the elevator, when I pretended to have the supermarket staff deliver supplies to Haojian, I later changed the address. I actually had the clerk deliver them to this girl's house. Although it was sent anonymously, I didn't expect this girl to guess it was me. Could she be a reincarnator too? It was only later that I found out. The reason this girl could notify me of danger so quickly was because she had secretly planted eavesdropping devices where the building bully and his gang resided. The true identity of this girl was actually a police officer, and the reason the building bully never came to retaliate against me was that when Haojian brought his men to my house, she had already blocked the building bully's front door, trapping him inside his apartment. She originally intended to wait for the blizzard to pass and then hand them over to the police, but because it took so long and they ran out of food, the building bully and his gang all froze to death inside. But this can be considered getting what they deserved. Everything is cause and effect. After that, I sold the old house, used to share with Haojian. Then I bought the villa I am living in now. I spent some money to have it completely renovated again. The blizzard disaster is over. Everything will get better. Winter goes, spring comes, and all things are reborn. There will be no more apocalypse in the future, and my new life is officially about to begin.